Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are live. It is January 27th, 2023. This is Live with Vince and Taylor. I am Vince Russo.
And Taeler Hendrix.
This is the queen of pop culture. The
Not even.
queen of pop culture, Taeler Hendrix. And that's what we come here every Friday. We talk about the latest in pop culture, man. Taylor and I both love pop culture. It's awesome because Taylor is a female. I am a male. Taylor is much younger than I. So even though we're both into pop culture, we may have different views and different opinions on what's going on. And it's so refreshing for me to do a show with somebody as young and vibrant and brilliant as the great Taeler Hendrix. Taeler, how are you doing this morning?
Well, after that marvelous introduction, how could I be anything but positive, right? I mean, considering the subject matter we have for today, pretty good.
There's a lot. There was a lot going on last week's show, but there's a lot going on today as well.
Yes.
Listen, for those of you watching on YouTube or Twitch, guys, feel free, man. If you like the show, if you like what we're doing, first of all, like it on the YouTube channel, but also you can send super stickers, you could send donations, you could send bits on Twitch, you could sub on Twitch, gift a sub, whatever you want to do to support us, support me, support Taylor, support this channel. Now, I don't even know if I can say this anymore. Taylor, is this being out of school when I say ladies first? What do you want to present first?
I think we'll just get into the nitty gritty this week. And no, I am a person. Vince, you're always putting me on the spot, man. Why do you do this to me, dude? Bro, come on. I figured I would throw out one of the first bros of the episode. I know that's your thing. However, I'm not a person that gets offended with ladies first or a man holding a door open for me.
That's
I do not understand.
That's old school. I still pull a chair out for my wife.
Yes. So here's the thing. Here's the thing, Vince. So I was taught this at a very young age, and I am so thankful. I think it speaks to the kind of person and woman that I am and I want to be, and to grow into someday if I'm blessed enough to, grow older and stuff, is the car test, right? So if you are thinking of dating a girl, and here's something really, really great for a guy to look out for. If you hold the door open for a woman to get into your car or even her car or whatever, and she doesn't lean across the car to kind of try to open the door for you, that's kind of an indirect message. You know what I'm saying? And the same thing is like the sidewalk test. Okay. So, old school teachings, a man would position a woman that they appreciate and they care about on the inner part of the sidewalk away from traffic, right? So there's two different tests to kind of see what type of person you're dealing with. I know these are very old school things, but they are very telling in my opinion, and I think they are very underrated. So with that being said, ladies first.
We learn something every week from Taylor. This is what I love about Taylor. Oh, and Taylor, let me just mention John. Good John. John's a brand member. John just cheered 100 bits. Guys, if you have a question and you donate or give us a super sticker, I will pull it up on the screen like this with John. Taylor, a real gem. He's calling you. Now, is John allowed to call you a gem? Is that okay?
Absolutely. Right. I am not a woman that's easily offended. The only types of things I would call out are some things that are just blatantly disrespectful. But I think I was kind of ahead of the curve because women get away with that a lot more in wrestling today compared to the onslaught that I went through whenever I would try to do that. Yes. So, but, I don't let that change me. I kind of just, I stay true to my moral compass. And if people want to get out of the, get away from me because of that, then they weren't meant to be there to begin with. So no, absolutely. Thank you for calling me a gem. You know what? I am a once in a lifetime person. I own it. for good or bad. So since we started this podcast, Vince, the first debut episode, we talked about different music and genres and television show recommendations. We continued that last week where I think I threw out the Grassroots as the band of the week. And I think I brought out Ted Lasso as my recommendation for a TV show. This week, I have another one. So we'll get that out of the way and we'll head right into the topics that are on our banner for this week, because there is a lot to unpack and break down here. And I think it's going to be a very divided episode. So here we go. My recommendation for music this week is a hard rock kind of band that I absolutely adore. I think they are singing my new entrance music as my character sort of evolves in wrestling. And they're called, one second here, they're called In This Moment. And they are so awesome. I highly recommend you check it out. She writes her music. Their band is just so unique and so awesome. I kind of think of her as more like a Skillet meets Lady Gaga, and it's just awesome. And kind of throw in some Hailstorm into their style for a freak like me, which has been my entrance music for like over 10 years. So that is my band of the week, In This Moment. Check them out. They're absolutely amazing. I think the lead singer's name is Maria. And the show of the week, go ahead.
Where do we find them? Do we find them on YouTube? Where do we find them?
They're on YouTube. I think they're on Instagram. They're definitely on Twitter. So check them out.
Okay, cool.
Even if it's not your type of music, I think like a lot of their videos are so creative. The instrumentals are awesome. The lyrics that she writes are just so passionate, and it's amazing. I used their music in a recent reel that I made on Instagram and Twitter that I shared. So it's I asked, "Are you sick like me?" And that was from their song "Sick Like Me," and I just absolutely love it. It's totally my vibe. And then the show of the week, I was trying to go back and forth on this, and I wasn't quite sure what to say. So I think the show of the week is going to be Hell's Kitchen. Only because if you want to just escape reality for a little bit and watch people learn how to cook, and for the love of all that is good in this world, like my goodness, if you are going to go on Hell's Kitchen, learn beforehand, how to cook a darn scallop. Okay, learn how to cook a scallop. So go ahead and enjoy 21 seasons of Hell's Kitchen. It is crazy cool. You learn stuff from the culinary realm. You get entertained by Gordon Ramsay, who is just a savage legend in and of himself, and you get some entertainment. The current season is 20-somethings versus 40-somethings. So a very similar premise like the show. So
now, Taylor, are you a big cook?
I love to cook. I am an old-fashioned person. I enjoy being around family and cooking for family and sitting down with my husband and seeing us get to enjoy a meal that I cooked. Like, I love that. Like, to me, that's just so much in how I grew up. I really enjoy being in the kitchen with my mom and cooking different things. I love it, especially with all like the great Portuguese food that I grew up eating as a child. I love to cook. I love it.
I'm going to throw out a show of the week. Because a brand member listen, the brand members have been swinging and missing a lot with me. I gotta
to do. You're a hard
be honest, because they always recommend stuff for me to watch. I got a recommendation from a good brand member, a good friend of mine, Troy. A couple of days ago, he told me to watch Your Honor on Showtime.
Oh, I have not seen that.
Bryan Cranston. Incredible first season. The way this show came together, I think there were 10 episodes in the first season. Brilliant. The writing is brilliant. The acting is brilliant. Highly recommended. Your Honor on Showtime. All right, man. What's on the docket for today?
All right. So I'm definitely going to have to check that out then, because I've talked to you about television shows and movies and video games and stuff quite a bit recently, and you have never actually been like, wow, this was so good. So I definitely have to check that out. I apologize to anyone who saw me just break my bracelet. That was an accident.
Taylor, you got a big fan here in John, my boy John. Taylor is the best kept secret on the channel. Super sharp, willing to get out of her comfort zone to grow. I love her energy and personality. 100 cheers. How about that?
Thank you. Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. I'm still not used to receiving like positive love. I'm still used to just like.
That's why it's hard. That's why sometimes with you, Taylor, it's hard for me to disagree with you. It's hard, but that's what this show is about.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So on the docket for today, we have all of the controversy surrounding, and boy, is there so much of it, surrounding the Hogwarts Legacy game. We also have the cancellation, you're canceled, of M&Ms. We also have the sentencing and shooting on set with Alec Baldwin. And then we also have some controversy surrounding Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Henry Cavill, and the Black Adam, and a lot of the stuff going on with Warner Brothers and DC after the merger. So that is the type of content we are going to be getting into today. So I thought we would just get this out of the way now, like ripping off the Band-Aid, so to speak, because there is so much here to unpack with the Hogwarts Legacy. So I had some bullet points here just in case anyone doesn't know what we're about to get into, and then we can kind of get into it. That way they kind of understand briefly what's going on without having to listen to a 45-minute spiel on what's going on. Okay, so first of all, bullet point, J.K. Rowling has absolutely nothing to do with the video game Hogwarts Legacy. This is a classic case of virtue signaling being a very toxic version of gaslighting. And we have like kind of people that think they're more important than they are in the form of social justice warriors on social media, which kind of also relates back to the previous bullet point of virtue signaling and gaslighting. And then we also have other companies.
Let me stop you right there to make one thing perfectly clear. When you say she has nothing to do with the game, what about rights fees and stuff like that?
Well, yeah, that depends on the contract when she's sold. You guys have to remember, so many people turned down Harry Potter before somebody saw the brilliance of Harry Potter in the wizarding world. Okay, it's the same thing with Starbucks. Do you guys realize that more than 200 plus banks turned down the idea for Starbucks before somebody was fine? Yeah. Wow. There's so many stories like this out there. That's why it's like, if you really believe in yourself, give yourself options, but at the same time, keep going for it. Don't accept no for an answer. Like, find ways to create your own opportunity. And this is what we saw here when J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter and she designed this whole wizarding world. It was kind of like a kid version of like Tolkien, basically, where he created his own world and his own languages. She did the same thing. Now, when I say she doesn't have anything to do with the video game, obviously she has rights to certain things that she didn't sell off, so she does make money. But if you're going to boycott a video game because of that, like, let's take that a step further. Are you going to boycott every single Disney movie and Disney Marvel show, even though Marvel is not technically a part of Disney, but it was acquired, certain parts of the studio were acquired by Disney? But if we're going to talk about virtue signaling, what about Disney? What about Disney's original legacy of the person that created Walt Disney World? You know, what about Walt Disney? If we're going to go that route, what about, you know, all these other examples? You know, are you going to boycott the Volkswagen Beetle because it was originally invented by a certain group of people during World War II? Are you going to boycott those cars? You know, are you going to boycott the iPhone? You know, this is such a huge scale, but people don't want you to see the bigger picture. They only want you to look into their little tiny scope, right? And only see what they want you to see, i.e. virtue signaling and gaslighting. And that's why I really do think that virtue signaling is a toxic form of gaslighting, because it's basically, if you don't agree with me, you're a bad person, and I automatically have the right to destroy your life without any consequences. Okay.
I want to stop you right there, Taylor, because I have such a hard time understanding this mindset. Listen, I'm not going to get into it again, but I'm just going to say I am a big believer in God, and thank God every one of us was created differently. So to me, if somebody has an opinion, I respect that opinion. I know they're entitled to that opinion. I don't necessarily have to agree with it or think the same way, but I know they are as entitled to that opinion as I am mine. What is the phenomena of these people? Whereas if you don't think like I think, not only are you the enemy, not only are we going to hate on you, but we are literally going to attempt to wipe you from this planet just because the opinion is different. Give me some of your insight of, because I don't know what is going on in the minds of people that think that way.
Okay, I'm just going to say this disclaimer before I get into this because I'm not a fearful person. I am not a person that's scared easily. So here we go. I'm going to say this first. All you haters that think you're going to come at me right now for what I'm about to say, just understand I grew up in a haunted house. I made friends with the monsters under my bed and the ghosts in my closet, and I am best friends with the voices inside of my head, okay? There is nothing that you can say or do to me that can scare me, okay? So with that being said, in a roundabout Taeler Hendrix in gimmick sort of way, I think you're speaking very logically and rationally. And unfortunately, that's not the modern society that we live in. People think that the more outraged and emotional you are, the more right you must be. And that's just not the case. I don't fear the most outrageous, boisterous, loudest, most emotional person in the room. I fear the person that is calm in a storm. My grandfather, there was a quote in Grey's Anatomy that said, "I am a good soldier in a storm." And that was very much indicative of my grandfather. And for me, I'm a good soldier in a storm. I'm a very calm person under a crisis. I am very calm, and I understand the traits of a very powerful, very dangerous person. I do not fear the most emotional people in the room because they're not rational, they're not logical, they're not going to stick to a plan to get from A to Z and accomplish something. They're just emotional, so they're not thinking rationally, okay? They're emotional. I fear the more logical, calm person. You know, a lot of people that have, you know, really great self-defense skills, they're not the ones going around getting into fights on purpose. They're the ones that try to avoid the fights because, like in Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. And unfortunately, we are living in a society that wants all the great power, but they do not want to deal with the responsibility. They do not want to handle the accountability that comes with responsibility. Okay, they want to wield the sword of justice, right? And they'll swing it any which way they choose as a social justice warrior. But then in the same breath, they're going to complain about how heavy the sword is. You can't have it both ways, okay? You can't expect companies to appeal to your every whim when you say this person needs to be canceled, this person needs to be fired. But then in that same instance, go and complain about all these big tech companies laying people off in the thousands. You can't have it both ways. So either you want companies to bend at the knee and bow their head at your feet for your every whim and validate your every feeling you've ever had in your entire life, whether justified or not, or you can support these companies in caring about their employees. Which one is it? Because you cannot have it both ways. Yeah. We see this with people complaining about, oh, they're protecting shareholders and not their employees. But some of these same employees were the ones that were quiet quitting, or while they're on the clock getting paid for their jobs, they're doing TikTok and Instagram videos, or they're blasting their coworkers without putting out their coworkers' names and kind of, you know, doxing people. And they're not doing their jobs. They're refusing to come back to the workplace, demanding pay raises, but doing less work. Whereas you cost the company money that way. Shareholders are the ones putting money into the company so that there are jobs. Yeah. So, like I said, there are people like this that want to virtue signal because they're emotional, and it's this mob mentality where they have lost their individuality. They instead have conformed to this mob mentality, which goes back to what you were saying. Originally, people had their own opinions because they viewed the world differently because they're different individuals, and the reality is different from a different person because that's a different person. There's billions of people in the world who experience the world in billions of different ways every single day. But they've lost touch with this reality because it's become popular and trending, and it's how they get these short bursts of dopamine with the attention that they get for thinking that they're right, and they're fighting the great fight for these causes that don't care about them, and they're pretending to come a certain way. And that's what we're seeing with Hogwarts Legacy.
Before we get to that, before we get to Hogwarts, I just Big Top 84 with a $3.99 super sticker. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Taeler.
So why I mentioned businesses and firing people and the sort of justice is because that all really does relate back to the Hogwarts Legacy controversy. People are wanting to boycott, and there's rumors that they're planning on attacking people on live streams in a mob fashion of anybody that does like a Twitch live stream or a YouTube live stream or whatever of playing Hogwarts Legacy. So we have that in play here. And an online person who I had never heard of before, and so I did my own research. Her name was Brianna Wu. And I had no idea who she is, could not find her on Instagram, found her on Twitter. I was so disappointed to find out that she is living in Massachusetts, and I think she ran for either Senate or House in Massachusetts. And she's originally from Mississippi, and she's an engineer, and she had stuff like this to say: Hogwarts Legacy isn't a game, it's a character test, and a lot of people are about to fail it. That's a direct quote of one of her tweets. And what this person supposedly did was, and a lot of other accounts actually reported this story, is she scrolled through like 6 years of another woman's tweets on Twitter, right? Until she found something that she didn't agree with of this woman. And what put this woman on Brianna Wu's radar for Hogwarts Legacy was this woman works for a video game company. And she was talking about in a tweet how she was excited to play Hogwarts Legacy. Well, I don't see, limited run games. So this woman worked for limited run games. And so Brianna Wu saw this tweet and had to virtual signal and gaslight this woman without any idea of what this would do to this woman's life, right? They're not caring if, she has health problems. They're not caring if she has a family to provide for, or extended, extenuating circumstances. They don't care about any of that. They don't want to see the aftermath of their actions, right? So she finds a tweet from this woman that works for limited run games, and it talked about this woman's concerns about biological men potentially pretending to be trans women, to take advantage of those rights that the trans community fought for, and take advantage of those rights in order to find their way into women's locker rooms, women's bathrooms, and so forth.
And we talked about that. I mean, disco was big. We talked about that on this show years ago. We talked about exactly that years ago, and we were talking about it, in an effort to just assure that women are safe. Like that, that's what we were talking about. But yeah, this was the same topic. So what happened?
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe you were speaking about it around the same time as this woman. From all the reports I read, this woman tweeted her concerns about that issue in the way I kind of described it about 6 years ago from now. And so that's quite a while ago. There's been a lot of progression in these different movements since then, and a much more palatable, people are much more likely to join in on the mob mentality because they're not feeling the repercussions of that. They're getting that attention, that justification of their right, and without any idea of what they're doing to other people. They don't care. And so Brianna Wu screenshotted the tweet, and also screenshotted the fact that this woman that worked for limited run games actually follows an account called Libs of TikTok. In case you don't know what Libs of TikTok is, I think it's an account that goes on TikTok and finds all kinds of videos from people that subscribe to woke agendas and talk about different issues and different ideals. Some of the issues, and I'm not saying I agree with them. I have a lot of my own opinions. I don't subscribe to any sort of thing that tries to force me in how to think. I'm a very independent person. So basically this account would target other videos from people that subscribe to woke agendas that talk about toxic masculinity, teaching kids about gender identity in preschool and kindergarten, how the patriarchy is affecting women, and feminism, and people bashing housewives and all kinds of different stuff like that. So that's what Libs of TikTok would post. They would find videos in those particular topics where they hate on Republicans. They talk about all kinds of different woke ideas, how much they hate comedians who make certain types of jokes, all that kind of stuff. So Brianna Wu posted all this stuff, tagged limited run games. And then what does limited run games do? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm just kidding. They fired this woman, and they made a public announcement about it. Basically, they said, LRG respects all personal opinions. However, we remain committed to supporting an inclusive culture. And this next part really grinds my gears because I know how fake this actually is. Upon investigating, can I just tell you guys real quick, like, internal investigations are just BS. Trust me, I would know. Okay. I really wish I would have listened to my aunt. My aunt worked for a company for several decades, and this company was around for like over 200 years. It was a very big company until more recent times. And she was in human resources. And she told me as a teenager, she said, Taylor, do not let the name HR fool you. Just because it has the word human in it does not mean they're for the people. The company pays their paychecks. They're not looking out for the employees. They're looking out for the company. And I wish I would have realized what a gem that actually was, but I didn't. I just brushed it under the rug. It's just a random conversation I had with my aunt, and now I know better, and I know what sage advice that actually was. And you can see that here, because part of their statement, this is a direct quote from LRG, Limited Run Games. They said, upon investigating a situation, an employee was terminated. Our goal as a company is to continue to foster a positive and safe for everyone. Now, like, how is that for everyone if you're firing somebody based on their opinions? So they're not stating anything as fact, they're just opinions. So you fired somebody because they follow account libs of TikTok. You fired this woman because other people were outraged. And you're firing somebody who's pondering ideas that other people have in fact pondered, whether they talk about it openly or not. So how is that fostering a positive and safe environment for everyone? I don't think it is.
It's not, you know, and that's part of the big problem too, Taylor. The one thing that I hate, and it's along these lines, because to me, this is the biggest issue. You know, when it comes to this type of situation, what drives me crazy is when people apologize for no reason.
It makes it worse.
Yeah, when there is absolutely no reason to apologize and you are apologizing, that gives them all the power. And sometimes I think that is the worst. I know recently it happened to Billie Eilish when she made a comment as a child. And now as an adult, she apologized for the comment she made as a child. Who knows anything as a child? I mean, you're so innocent. You repeat things that you hear. You don't know and understand. But to me, that's such a big issue when, you know, the pressure comes and now you're apologizing for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, it's like that girl on, I think it was either TikTok or Instagram. She did a reel or a video or whatever the lingo is, where she was doing a tutorial on how to make her own favorite salad. Okay. And then people said it was cultural appropriation because the way she sliced the vegetables, it was almost like a pico de gallo sort of salsa. So they said it was cultural appropriation. And then she made a separate video and apologized for it. And I was just like,
exactly. Hey, Jeff, real quick, he just wants to make a quick correction. Taylor, so we don't get anybody in trouble. Wu wasn't the person that reported the employee to Limited Run Games. It was a My Little Pony fan.
All right. Well, she did post all of these on her actual social media, Jeff. I actually went back. I wanted to make a point. My point was, nobody better than you has the time to knock you down, right? And if they are better than you in any sort of professional or personal financial way, whatever, and they are knocking you down, that means you're a threat or you're all of a sudden on the same rung as them. Okay. It's a different playing field up there. But anybody that's doing better than you honestly does not have the time to knock you down. Like this person, that the My Little Pony fan or whatever, had to go back 6 years on this woman's tweets to find this. That kind of says more about that person and not about the woman they reported. Okay, I barely had the time to go back all the way through the month of January on Brianna Wu's actual Twitter. And I actually wrote down some of the stuff. She talked about this exact issue with Hogwarts and the firing multiple times throughout the month of January. So she was all for this firing. She was all for this reporting. And it was just crazy. I mean, she said, I'm boycotting it. I think if you care about trans people, you should too. That was one tweet, I quote. My position on Hogwarts Legacy is clear. And then she says in another tweet, but in what should not be a surprise to anyone, most gamers don't care about trans dignity enough to sacrifice for them. By all accounts, it will sell very well. And then another tweet she had, this outcome shouldn't surprise me. Gamers care even less about trans dignity than they did about the women who make games having a sexual harassment-free workplace, but is deeply saddening to see. So she actually had multiple things to say about this. If people who buy games expected more of the industry and of themselves, we would solve a lot of problems. Less sexual misconduct, less open discrimination, fewer predatory practices with microtransactions. But we expect nothing and receive nothing in return. All right, so she had numerous tweets about this exact topic, and she is a person that you could say is a person of influence. And a lot of the ways that it's her opinion, it's her right to voice her opinion, but I also think other people have a right to express their opinions as well, even if they don't agree with you. And I think to bash the whole entire gaming community by saying if they play this game, they don't care about the LGBTQ, is it IA plus or AI plus? If you don't care about that community, if you play this game, I think that that's not fair to say, especially because some people openly said in the comments, I am trans and I am actually excited to play this game. So I just think that these blanketed statements hurt everyone, including the people that actually get fired. And here's the thing that I wanted to say about this is, she had so many tweets to say about this exact topic of Hogwarts Legacy and how because of J.K. Rowling, it's a disgrace to the trans community. And if you care about trans dignity, then you wouldn't play this game, is basically her point in some of her own words. 2 weeks earlier, she referenced Kim Kardashian and Gwyneth Paltrow and Elon Musk. She said that Kim Kardashian and Gwyneth Paltrow represent empowerment fantasies for a subset of women. And being a bigger example of male empowerment fantasy is a trillion times more toxic for the unknown toxic dude being Elon Musk. Now, if you care so much about this topic and you're going to virtue signal people and try to guilt them into not playing a Hogwarts Legacy game that J.K. Rowling is not actually involved in the creation of, how come you're going to make references to Kim Kardashian but not reference the fact of Balenciaga and the scandal of them producing child porn? I'm going to say it like that so we don't get canceled. It's amazing to me that people will go so hard in the paint for one issue and completely ignore another issue. What about protecting kids? Like, we want to talk about, dignity and how you shouldn't play the Hogwarts Legacy game, but then you're not going to talk about a lot of these other issues as well, where like nobody's talking about the Balenciaga scandal with children.
Yeah.
And there was no accountability. Who got fired for that? Please, anybody tell me who got fired for that.
Yeah.
But if you play this Hogwarts game, you're a part of the problem. Not me, because I'm saying I care. But you're a part of the problem if you play the game. It doesn't matter if you're a part of that community and you're excited to play the game. It doesn't matter. No, then you're a part of the problem too. You see how selective it is and how they want to talk about microtransactions and microtransgressions, but they don't look at the own microscope that they're shining on everyone else.
Yeah.
There's no accountability.
Yeah.
No, like, what about that woman that got fired? What about the people that are actually excited to play the game, Vince? Like, does that mean you're a bad person if you want to play the Hogwarts game because of J.K. Rowling's beliefs? Like, I don't understand how that makes you a bad person if you want to play this game. Like, is that what we've come to as a society, where we're offended by M&Ms and we're offended if you play a fake wizarding game, but yet people in Salem can create a giant, huge, like, you can see it from the sky Ouija board? Like, how are we picking and choosing these like hills to die on? I don't understand.
Here's the only way. Here's the only way we overcome that. We remain individuals. We don't let other people change us, influence us, bully us, make us follow their agenda. It all comes down to, again, man, we live in the United States. It all comes down to freedom. And you have, right or wrong, you have a freedom of thought. And just because somebody does not agree with your freedom of thought and they've got a totally different freedom, if they shut you down, well, then think about this. Think about this, Taylor. If all of a sudden one by one by one by one, we all get shut down. And now we're all thinking the same exact way. We're all falling in line. That's the worst thing you could ever
well, that's the end game. That's that's the end game, Vince. We're living in George Orwell's 1984. Yes. If you have not read that book, please, everybody, go out and rent that book from the library or go buy it used on eBay for like $1 to like read it. That's what we're experiencing right now. I think the end game is totalitarianism. Oh, we're the government and we're coming to save you. That's probably one of the worst like sentences you could ever hear, because they create the problem so that they can come in and, you know, so that you are beholden to them. You stay in line because you need their help, so forth and so on. I think that's why they coined the phrase freedom is slavery, because you become a slave to your choices. You become complacent because you have no purpose. You're just picking. And then they also have the reverse of that phrase in the book, Slavery is Freedom, in 1984. And it's supposed to make you think about who's controlling the way you think, who's controlling what you do. Are you afraid to step out of that line, like you had said? And it's just very interesting. I think that's really good food for thought for anybody that's a fan.
Well, I think the perfect example of this is, and John, with another 100 cheers, the vision is the controller's gold, is what John says. And again, guys, if you want to, you know, cheer, donation, super sticker, the segue to that is, I think, is now if we talk about the M&Ms.
Yeah, that was actually next up on the docket, so that's perfect.
Yeah, because I just did a whole show about this past week. But basically, guys, what happened is about a year ago, we all grew up with these beloved M&M characters. Okay, I don't even know if they have them anymore, Taylor, but there actually used to be M&M stores. There was a big M&M store in LA I remember going to, but these characters all had personality. Mm-hmm. Well, all of a sudden, man, you know, about a year ago, we got to change the personality of these beloved characters. It's not politically correct anymore. We've got to make these we got to make the green M&M woke, and they made a change to these beloved characters. What people don't understand is, Taylor, a lot of people don't like change, especially we talked about Velma last week. Like, you know, people there literally are people that grew up on Scooby-Doo and like this is sacred ground. Well, it was the same with the M&Ms, you know? I mean, these were characters, they were near and dear to us. And now, because whether you want to call it pressure, whether M&M Mars wants to become politically correct, now we're going to change these characters. Well, it backfired on them. And I mean, when I say backfired, what we're talking about is monies and dollars and cents. And people did not like that idea. So we just heard about a week ago, totally scrapping that idea now, totally doing away with it. I think Maya Rudolph is going to be the spokesperson for M&Ms. But that is a perfect example of not giving in and standing up for yourself. And in that case, they were successful. So what's your take on the M&M story?
Okay, so from the last situation with Hogwarts Legacy and Brianna Wu down to M&M's being canceled and people blaming Tucker Carlson. Listen, Brianna Wu, Tucker Carlson, you, me, everybody listening to this live with the brand live, we all are entitled to our own opinions, okay? Like there shouldn't be any thought police like 1984, okay? And that's what I think is so utterly ridiculous. And this is why other countries are laughing at us. Like, how did we get to the point where people are offended by fictitious walking and talking fashionable M&Ms? Like, thank goodness they haven't touched the California raisins. Like, my grandmother had those magnets on her fridge and I loved playing with them while eating chicken nuggets. Okay. Like, thank goodness, like they're not being touched, but like, seriously, how have we become offended by M&Ms? And like, let's be honest, why is all of a sudden every company wanting to join social justice? Like, I don't you are a candy company, Mars Inc. Like, stick to what you know. That is candy. And I also don't understand why being feminine or dressing feminine is somehow bad. Like, why can't, if you are a man, why is it bad for you to be a man? If you are a woman, why is it bad for you to wear feminine things? I don't understand that social commentary. And then we wonder why other countries are laughing at us. We wonder why, like, we're all so messed up. I think it goes back to like generational curses being passed down and passed down and passed down, right? Until we get to the generation that's offended by M&Ms. Like, if you guys would have just dealt with your own shizit before you had kids, instead of doing such a big overcorrection, providing your kids with everything you never had, why not teach them all the things that no one ever taught you instead? And don't like try to say that every feeling your child has is valid and the world should bend to it. Like, teach them real self-love instead of needing their self-love through representation. Why not? And inclusivity. Why not teach them not just right from wrong, but how to think for themselves, how to create healthy boundaries, how to truly love yourself? Like, all these people are trying to cancel Disney or cancel M&Ms. Like, I don't think Disney hurt anybody. I don't think these M&Ms hurt anybody. I don't
Taylor,
understand.
you know what the funny thing is? There was another story that's not on our docket, but I'm going to bring it up here because I think it's fitting. The problem is so many of these things are a non-issue. And now we make an issue out of everything. Here's a perfect example. And Scott Woodford, a $4.99 donation. Where's my round of applause for Scott? This is all sleight of hand to distract us, in my opinion. I still have one of the raisins that has a guitar. I actually have the California raisins on vinyl. Maybe I'll show you that next time.
Oh, that's so cool. I know you have the HR Puff and Stuff vinyl. I'm so jealous.
Yes, I do. I have that too. Taylor, you're going to appreciate this story. You are going to appreciate, because I was reading this and I'm like, see, that's the problem now. It opens it up to make an issue out of everything, okay?
Yep.
Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, is about to celebrate its 50th anniversary.
Oh, that's so cool. My mom had that album.
Oh, great album. Great album. So now they're re-releasing, packaging it, the vinyl, the whole 9 yards. Now, if you remember Dark Side of the Moon, it was a rainbow, a prism going into like a rainbow going into a prism, and then the lights. We all know the iconic cover. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a play on light and fragmentation.
That's it. That's exactly it. Yeah. So now in promotion of this,
who's offended now?
Well, listen to what they did, because we're going nuts. They came up with a 50 logo. It's 5 and it's a 0. Now, what they did was, just for a change and to bring it up to date, in the 0, they put the same exact colors that was on the rainbow of the original. They didn't add colors. They didn't subtract colors. It's the same exact color, but it was a new logo. Now, all of a sudden, you had these, these anti people coming out of the woodwork. Oh my God, they changed the iconic album cover for this. No, it's the same exact colors. They just came up with a 50th anniversary logo. There was no agenda. There was nothing. But see, that's the problem now. Everything becomes an issue, even when it's not even there.
When you're unhappy in life, you look for ways to make other people unhappy too. Right. That's why they say misery loves company. Yeah. All these people have everything done for them. They get to buy their coffee instead of making it. They buy their clothes. They buy this. They buy that. They want the attention on social media because they don't know how to be happy with themselves when they're alone in the dark at night. And so you have all of these people that are complacent. They don't have any purpose. So then they go out and they find purpose within these mob mentalities. They lose their individuality, and they're always looking for something to fight against. They're contrarian, basically. Like they gotta fight for the good fight, even though they don't really understand what that's doing to society. Like, I leave Pink Floyd alone. Just leave the.
I'm like,
leave the M&Ms alone. Yeah. Leave Pink Floyd alone. Leave Scooby-Doo alone.
Yes. Yes.
Ugh, it's like when people tried to cancel Paw Patrol they're dogs. Just leave them alone. Like, it's like in wrestling, okay? There was this Al Snow taught me so much, right? And I know Al Snow has a show on your program with Russo's brand, okay? So I'm going to give him a shout out real quick. This is relevant to M&Ms and to Pink Floyd and everything we're talking about, because basically, if you guys don't know the reason behind why M&Ms were canceled, I guess in January of 2022, what Mars Company, the parent company for M&Ms, did was they changed some fashion features of their female M&Ms, basically. So the green M&M left the go-go boots behind, and they put on some, quote, cool sneakers, basically cool down sneakers. And then the brown M&M changed her high heels, I guess, to like a shorter heel, which is basically called a kitten heel, for anybody that does not know. Like, kitten heels are basically how like little girls started out with their little dress up fake heels. Those are kitten heels. So basically, if you're an adult woman, it's called kitten heels, okay? And this caused outrage, and people were saying they were less sexy. People are blaming Tucker Carlson for them being like canceled. And it's funny how they want him to take responsibility for it, but then the woke mob who's canceled like everything that we've ever loved and everyone and all this other stuff. Now, some of them may be justified, a lot of them are not. And but it's okay. It's everybody else's fault when that happens, not theirs. But then they want somebody to take accountability for M&Ms. At the end of the day, the parent company of Mars Inc. made this choice, just like you said. They made the choice to apologize and issue a statement and change their fashion. I don't understand why you cannot be feminine. Like, you can be feminine and still be powerful. Like, I don't understand this construct of women have to be the men they always wanted to marry if they want to be successful in the workplace. I don't understand that. So how this all relates to Al Snow is, I remember Al Snow telling us women, stop trying to be men in the business. You are women. People don't want to see you be men. They want to see you wrestle like a woman because you're a woman. They want to see you succeed as yourself, as a woman, and not as something that you're not. And I remember us being so offended at the time, but then as years go on, you understand what it means. Like, people want to see women that can compete in wrestling. That means they paid the dues. They know how to work. They know how to tell a good story. They know how to talk at a mic. They know how to sell tickets, but they're still women, which shows that women have a place in the business. You don't have to be like, turn yourself into everything you're not and be masculine in order to succeed. Now, I just don't understand that mindset of having to do that. Like, why did we have to make fake M&Ms less feminine? Just like, why do certain women in wrestling think that they have to do everything that the dudes do and do it the exact way that a dude does it and all this other stuff? But like, is that your character? Like, I can't wrestle like Awesome Kong. I'm not Awesome Kong. It would not make any sense. Yeah. I'm not Jazz. I freaking love Jazz. Like, oh my gosh, she is so powerful and amazing, and she looked great while doing it, and she was a woman, and she was badass, and why she's not in the Hall of Fame is a completely different discussion, which makes me so angry. But at the end of the day, if you can be like feminine and kick ass and be powerful and make people and make wrestling fans believe in what you're doing in the ring, that's magic. That's amazing. And I think M&M's here did the exact opposite message. Like, now you can't be an M&M and wear feminine shoes. Like, I don't know. I don't understand.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
And also, Vince, I think we're missing an opportunity here for the Super Bowl. Can I just throw this out there? I'm sure I'm not the first person to think of this, because I'm not that type of person. But like, I love Maya Rudolph. Like, her character in Grown Ups is hilarious and awesome. I think she's very funny and charismatic. But with that being said, I think, Vince, we're missing an opportunity here to have Eminem replace M&Ms, especially because he performed at the Super Bowl before, right? And then the M&Ms try to take over Eminem. Like, I don't know. There's a really good story in there. I think it's a missed opportunity. Eminem versus the M&Ms. Like, how wicked would that be? Like, anyway, it's a missed opportunity. Bad marketing and bad decision. You don't need to change the shoes. And like, how did that break the internet? They said we didn't know this choice would break. I don't think that you guys broke the internet, okay? Like, I just think you guys bowed your heads to a mob, and you then appealed to what they wanted. But they're still not buying your M&Ms. So was it worth it? Was it worth it?
You know, that also goes to it's also to the racist issue. And like one of the problems that I had, and think about the millions of dollars the company lost. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up on Uncle Ben Rice. I
Yep.
grew up on Aunt Jemima. Aunt Jemima was pancakes. So now what did they do? They changed the name. Nobody even knows it's the same product. As far as they're concerned, there's no Aunt Jemima pancakes anymore. That company lost millions and millions of dollars. And meanwhile, my point is, if you are putting Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben on a box to promote a product, you're not degrading them. I'm putting them over. They are the spokesperson for this product. That is not a degrade. They are the focus. They are the marketing campaign. And when I think about the pressure to cancel those characters and the millions and millions of dollars those companies lost, which means people were laid off, people were let go. For what? For what?
It goes back to that scope I mentioned earlier. They don't want to see anything else other than their tiny little vision through the scope, okay? That little magnifying glass, right? They didn't want to stop to listen to the family that actually owns the Aunt Jemima product, right? Aunt Jemima was based off of one of their ancestors in their family that created Aunt Jemima. Okay, created that product, and that product has been a legacy for that family, paying for that family for several generations, and now that's gone.
Look what Joe just said here. Yes, Uncle Vince, this is coming from an African American who were not offended and were dissatisfied with the change to Pearl. See, I didn't even remember the name. I thought it was the Pearl River Plunge. I thought, but I swear to God, it's like when they did that, I'm like, wait a minute, bro. My whole life, I'm thinking Aunt Jemima is somebody's aunt cooking up these great pancakes in the kitchen. Where are we getting all this other? I always thought that. I never thought of that anything other than that. She's somebody's aunt. She had this great recipe for what the, and again, like you said, though, it's not the company took the hit. But don't fool yourself, man. The company taking the hit means people lost jobs, man. For what? Ridiculous.
But that's not their fault. That's not the woke mob's fault, though, Vince. You see what I'm saying? No. There's no responsibility and accountability. It's the R word's fault that those people lost their jobs. It's the man that did it. It's capitalism. Yeah. Capitalism that did it. Please don't get me started. I don't think I would survive the episode.
Let's go on to the next thing. Let's
it's Alec Baldwin, and I'm already ready for you. This is not a lot of information, but we can briefly discuss it, especially with your experience and expertise with running a program for television where the processes are very similar with producing and having a chain of command and certain policies in place for protection and for avoidance of mistakes and so forth. You have a lot of experience in this, Vince, with working with a live television program where there's time cues to hit, sponsorship things to advertise, different things that need to be said, so forth and so on. So for those of you that don't know, while I believe in New Mexico filming a new movie called Rust, Alec Baldwin pointed a gun at a camera on set and ended up shooting two people ended up getting hurt. One was, I believe, either the director or assistant director who was wounded but did not pass away. And the other person hurt was the cinematographer by the name of Helena Hutchins, who did pass away. It was a fatal shooting for her. And there is so much takeaway from this. And again, we're dealing with the woke mob again in the story. 3 people are being charged with this crime, including obviously Alec Baldwin, who's a part of the cast, and then 2 crew members who are also facing charges. This shooting dates back to October of 2021. It just shows how slow our justice system actually is. It's not like how you see on TV, folks. So one of the people being charged, and I think rightly so, in my opinion, is the armorer on set who's in charge of like the weapons and so forth, Hannah Gutierrez Reed. And then also charged is the assistant director by the name of David Halls. He actually signed a plea agreement and he was charged with negligent use of a deadly weapon. Now, Alec Baldwin's lawyer and Hannah Gutierrez Reed's lawyer both believe that the investigation was flawed and the charges distort the tragic reality of the death of Helena Hutchins. I think that there's a lot going on here, but it won't take long to unpack because it's very, very simple. There is a chain of command, which I'm sure that you are probably familiar with. So what do I mean by that for anybody listening? Okay, the gun does not simply magically appear in the hands of Alec Baldwin. There's a chain of command that happens, which means it is somebody's job to watch all of the dangerous equipment while on set. These things are supposed to be under lock and key, so things like this do not happen, because this is not the first time that this has happened in Hollywood. So I want to know, because Alec Baldwin's lawyer says that Alec Baldwin had no idea that the gun had live rounds in it. He had no idea that there was even real bullets on the set. So I want to know, why is he the downfall person? Why is the armorer kind of like a sub story that you actually have to go onto a bunch of different accounts before you see people start to mention it? Why was it that the armorer would have let Alec Baldwin take a gun that was loaded and point it at a camera where there's people like a cinematographer and an assistant director and a director? How did this chain of command let this happen? I would love your thoughts.
Listen, listen, part of this is 1000% on Alec Baldwin. Now, first of all, there is no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt in my mind that the New Mexico Police Department, whoever was handling this, no doubt in my mind that they wanted to get the recognition of going after an actor. No doubt in my mind. With every interview I've seen, I can see it. The problem is Alec Baldwin gave them that opportunity, because this is what went down, Taylor, which is, it's very kabuki-ish to me. Now, you got to understand, man, if you're in that situation, anybody's ever in that situation, God forbid, you're in total shock. You're in total shock. So you're not thinking correctly. Okay. Yeah. But what happened was, when this first thing, when it first happened, and they interviewed Alec Baldwin said numerous times when they first brought him in the room and more or less interrogated him, I shot the gun. I shot the gun. I shot the gun. He said it at least 3 times. I shot the gun.
Shocked.
Well, all of a sudden, though, that turned into, I never pulled the trigger.
All right, you can't have it both ways.
Well, then what happened was the FBI investigated and came out with the conclusion after hours and hours and hours, no way the gun could have went off without the trigger being pulled. No way.
I've seen this test. I've seen this test done on forensic files. There is actually a certain amount of pressure that has to be applied to certain types of gun. Like there's a certain pistol where you have to have 10 pounds of something like that in order to pull the trigger. So every weapon's obviously different, but yeah, like there has to be a certain amount of pressure applied in order to pull the trigger and shoot a gun. And I think that's like a safety measure, so there is no misfires. So yeah, you can't have it both ways.
So that's a huge red flag. I shot the gun, but wait, I didn't pull the trigger, and the FBI saying, no, you pull the trigger. So to me, now there's a cause, because that's a red flag. So, again, I don't know how I shot the gun means I pulled the trigger. And then the story changed to, so there is a probable cause there. And I think he brought that on himself.
Yeah, he did. It kind of reminds me of that song. I don't know if it's from the 70s or 80s. I shot the sheriff, but I didn't kill the deputy.
Yeah.
Do you know that song?
Eric Clapton. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. My mom used to play that song. Like you can tell he was shocked. You know, he's being charged with involuntary manslaughter. I believe 2 counts. Okay. Now that doesn't have a super long time in prison. I think that's like a maximum of 5 years plus parole and a fine. But I think one of the reasons why the FBI and New Mexico investigation is they did want that pat on the back for making sure that he's going to do the time and get charged. Because how do you think the woke mob would have reacted if he had not, been charged with this? Like,
I agree.
Our justice system is no longer innocent until proven guilty. It is, if the mass public says that you're guilty, you have to be guilty, or else they'll dox the jurors, they'll dox the justice, the people involved with the decision making and all this other stuff, But I still want to know, did Hannah Gutierrez Reed, the armorer on set, did she take her eyes off of these guns? How is it that you had your star actor on set and nobody told him that the gun had live rounds in them, not fake rounds, not, certain shows, they won't even use actual guns to avoid the situation entirely. They'll do special effects, which is kind of weird for actors, I think. But anyway, and like, also, like you said before, there is a certain amount of accountability. Like, why would you point like a gun, even if you think it's not loaded? Like, they taught gun safety to children in 1956 in elementary schools. And they understood this concept. Even if you think it's not loaded, put it downward, not facing anybody, and check. Like, obviously you think you can trust the people you're on set with, but like, is that a kind of trust you want to rely on? Or should you check that for yourself? Because it's your life on the line as you know it, and it's other people's lives around you as they know it. And you don't want to be the person that takes that away.
And I'm sure, like, in his defense, I'm sure Alec Baldwin, I'm sure this is not the first time he was on a movie set with a gun in his hand. However, with the Brandon Lee situation, people should have learned from that. So when he was killed with the load around, and there was, I don't remember the number, but there were loaded rounds on the set. Like, why are they even there? Sir Clifton says we were always taught gun awareness, never point the gun, always check the gun. Very tragic. Alec does have a responsibility in the accident at Armorer. Thank you very much, sir, for the donation.
Thank you. I absolutely agree. There is a certain, like I said, we're missing responsibility and accountability in our modern society, which is a recipe for disaster. And this is clear. Like, Helena Hutchins, she didn't need to pass away. Like, we should have learned from this. Like, we've had more mass shootings than there are days of 2023 thus far. And it's because people get famous from doing this that otherwise would never have been famous. Like, all these different outlets would never know these people existed had they not gone and done these things. We have an outbreak and an outcry of mental health and gun awareness and all this other stuff. And this is one more example of why you should not trust everybody around you with your life. Like, you need to trust yourself and rely on yourself first and foremost. And if it's always easy to say what you would have done in the situation, but I'm familiar with guns. I've handled guns. I know how to throw knives. And like, and for me, like, I know I'm not going to trust somebody else's assessment of that gun. I want to check that scope myself. I want to see if that gun's loaded. I want to hear how the sound of that gun is. I want to know everything there is to know about that gun. When was the last time it was cleaned? How much pressure do I need to pull that trigger? I want to know those things. And I don't think in my mind I would have ever pointed a gun that I didn't check at a camera that has people. Like, even check, don't just check to see if the gun's loaded. Check and see if there's something in the chamber. Like, I don't know. This is such an unnecessary fatality, in my opinion.
It is. It's a tragedy.
All right, last on the docket, everybody, is Black Adam. Are you ready, Vince?
Yeah, you're gonna have to school me a little bit on this one. I'm not that familiar with this one, so I'm gonna listen to what you have to say.
All right, so Black Adam is a DC anti-hero of sorts. He dates back way farther than even the debut of Poison Ivy in 181. All right, so Black Adam has actually been around, I think, since either the gold or silver age of comics. And he is a very underrated character in DC Comics. He has some really cool origin stories and really cool struggles where he's bad, but he's not bad. He wants to be good. He doesn't believe in the good. And he's like a very, very old character. Okay. Like it's really, really cool. So Black Adam was a passion project for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who is obviously very familiar to fans in the world of professional wrestling, okay, and sports entertainment. Now, this was in the works for a very long time, this project. It got put on the back burner, got brought back, got put on the back burner. Finally, it debuts, right, in 2022. The original estimated budget for this film for Black Adam was $190 million. That's actually a pretty healthy budget, all things considered, because considering that the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is kind of new to the DC realm, and there's a lot of responsibility therein because these are usually blockbuster makers. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that's a lot of pressure. Now, there has been something in my eye here. Sorry. There was a lot of rumors surrounding the shootings and the set and the vibe of Black Adam, as well as a lot of the let goes and casting changes in DC in general, especially with the different paradigm shifts and regime changes that have been happening since the Warner Brothers merger with Discovery. We've seen a lot of things change, a lot of projects scrapped, and a lot of the scrappings were stuff that was straight for streaming instead of box office, because they wanted to make a lot of their money back after spending so much money on the merger. And it's also interesting to see how that has trickled down to HBO, HBO Max app, where they're actually, they up to the price per month. So after reshoots are all considered, there was a lot of reshoots for Black Adam, and that cost quite a bit. So the new budget for that film was over $260 million. That was not including a marketing budget, which is absolutely necessary when you want to be a box office smash, okay? Now, they added another $80 million for marketing, which is actually a pretty decent budget for marketing, all things considered. So the original budget was $190 million, and they ended up spending reports say anywhere from $330,000 to $380,000. That is like million. Yeah. And that's like $200 million above the original budget of 190. And there were several factors leading to the reshoots, and one of them was complaints about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And other parts of it were complaints and kind of a souring of the relationship with different factors in relevance to behind the scenes of DC, with all the different changes, different people taking over, different visions for what DC should be like in the future, keeping the different story arcs in a continuation. Was it worth it? Yes or no? A lot of that was going on around the time of filming and the release of Black Adam. Now, the first week was in the box office was pretty successful for Black Adam, but it really started to simmer down after that, and it really did not deliver on the promises that it made to the executives. One of the rumors surrounding Black Adam was there was sort of a secret meeting. I put that in quotations because I don't really understand how secret that could be when there's so many working hands and so forth. So originally, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Hiram Garcia, and Beau Flynn originally pitched Black Adam and their vision for DC, which included Henry Cavill's Superman, for an eventual showdown between Black Adam and Superman. That was their vision. The original CEO, who was on his way out, turned this down and did not greenlight the project. Well, Johnson and his team, including Beau Flynn, turned around and then had a meeting of sorts with the replacement of the former CEO, and he ended up greenlighting it. And unfortunately, it did not pan out as promised. And this is really, really odd because Beau Flynn is actually really known for a lot of DC projects that have been very successful. And I've spoken to him on many occasions, and it just really didn't seem like his behavior as far as his tenure with DC Comics. Like, he's been behind a lot of really good DC Comics content that fans have really enjoyed. And it just really didn't seem like Beau Flynn's modus operandi, I guess I would say. And the overall relationship really went downhill from there. And then we obviously saw that Black Adam barely made even at the end of the day through onto today when I looked at the figures. And we also know that Henry Cavill's Superman has been scrapped. I have to wonder how much of this is related back to the experiences that were dealt with while filming Black Adam, because they said like as the filming went on and on, it got more and more and more costly, and the demands kept coming and coming and coming, including a post-credit scene that featured Henry Cavill's Superman. Yeah. As well as having the Rock's tequila brand having a tequila bar for the premiere, the PG-13 premiere of Black Adam. So that's a lot of the data and information that I got about this, and I'm just really curious to see who watching this has actually seen Black Adam, and could you see any of this influence in Black Adam in the fact that it underperformed and it has made barely $393 million worldwide, which means it's barely broken even. And when you consider taxes that the film industries have to pay, as well as the theater cuts, I don't know, I think I read that the theater cuts get 50%. So they might have lost money on this. Like, what do you guys think? What do you think about that, Vince?
Well, first I want to say Larry H. With a donation. Taylor is awesome. I hope the rest of the brand realizes this and listens to her shows more. Very nice. Listen, let's be honest here. You know, it's business and it's all about dollars and cents. But I'm going to be honest with you, Taylor. And, you know, I worked many years with Rock. I mean, last time I spoke with Rock was when I was working at the WWE. So it's been 1999. Man, I got to tell you something. There was a point where, you know, Rock went political. And when you go political, man, you're rolling the dice, because now what you're doing is now you are splitting your fan base. I mean, that's exactly what you're doing. And, you know, it seems like when you're of the status of The Rock, we see it in Hollywood all the time. You know, obviously they're trying to get you on their side because he's got so much influence and so much of a fan base. But the problem is, man, when you pick a side, you're going to be turning a lot of people off. So the reason why I bring that up is, you know, the movie made $393 million. You know, if The Rock did not make some of the political stands that he did, you know, would it have been $593 million? I mean, we don't know. Man, that's why on this show, man, it's never political. I never get into politics. I never talk about candidates. None of that stuff. Because first of all, you know, my views on that are my business. I'm not going to get into I'm not going to get into arguments with people. But also, I know darn well you're splitting an audience, and there's no reason to split an audience. So, you know, he made a choice. And at the end of the day, I mean, that choice may have come back to bite him. I mean, that's my view on it.
I think that there's definitely, I think that definitely warrants a lot of merit. I think that this isn't just a one issue circumstance. I think this is a multifaceted issue, really, that has different bearings on this, because I expected this film to do a lot better than it did, especially considering it had a designated marketing budget that DC League of Super Pets did not. And this was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's leading role with a fan base that is so loyal. Like, Marvel and DC fans are not afraid to tell you messed up their favorite character, or you messed up this story arc, this film, this wasn't accurate, this wasn't the best casting, so forth and so on. There is a lot of loyalty because these people have been reading this stuff for years. They have their favorite personas and stories and so forth. And so I expected this to do a lot better than it did.
You know what, Taylor? I want to go back. I want to go back to the same problem that professional wrestling has with the not being able to get casual fans. The fact of the matter is, listen, man, I grew up on the Marvel universe. I mean, I've got, you know, I was buying Spider-Man comics when they were a dime. Okay, so like I'm very familiar. They went from a dime to 12 cents to 15 cents. I was buying comics during all that time. I got to be honest with you, Taylor. I would have never went to this movie because I didn't know the character Black Adam. You know, I know Iron Man and I know Hulk and the Fantastic Four and you know, I did not know the character Black Adam. I don't know what year Black Adam came along, but I had no idea. I knew no history of the character, nothing about the character. So from a casual, you know, comic book fan, I was not enticed to see that movie whatsoever. How long has that character been around?
That character predates the debut of Poison Ivy because a lot of I owned Batman 181, so that's why I like to bring up
what year? Ivy. What year are we talking about roughly? Do you know?
Oh man, he came out before 1968. I know that.
See, I could tell you when I was growing up, that was not a popular character.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. We could have made it popular, and then that would have presented so many other story arcs. Like Black Adam could have had a story arc with Captain Marvel. Okay, like I think that Shazam: Fury of the Gods, which is going to come out, I believe, March of this year, there could have been a crossover between those two characters. Okay, you also have he actually does have a story arc versus Superman as an anti-hero. So there's a lot of actual stuff with Black Adam, but I think he just wasn't one of the overly mainstream characters that we reference to today.
What is he? And again, I know nothing about Black Adam. I had no interest in seeing the movie. What are the powers of Black Adam?
I guess I would say what aren't the powers of Black Adam, because he's a very, very old character. And I don't just mean about when he debuted in comics. I actually mean that his actual character is so old. Like, I think he goes back to like the Egyptian Empire, or is it Persian? Something like that. I'm not 100% expert on Black Adam, but I do know that much.
Does he fly?
I believe he can. Can't he? Can somebody correct me if I'm wrong?
I know nothing. Yeah, I mean, see, Frank says here, Black Adam isn't even that big of a character. Shazam is more popular. Yeah. Hey, listen, Frank. Like I even knew I knew the Green Lantern. I even knew him. I knew nothing about Black Adam.
But that's where it's a missed opportunity, I think, is when you can take a character that's been around for so long, but is so indie and not really well known. There's so much promise and possibility, especially if you take the influence of Dwayne The Rock Johnson as this character. Because let's be honest, he actually looks like he could be Black Adam. Like, if you go and watch one of my favorite cartoons, it's Young Justice. There's, I think, 4 seasons so far. And it's about like the younger people of the Justice League before they were Justice League, and they come up with like this younger group that's not quite ready to be a part of the Justice League. You got Miss Martian and all this other stuff. They have an episode that's called Revelations and actually stars the character of Black Adam, right? It's one of the only times he actually gets referenced in the whole series. And the cartoon character could have been Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Like, there is not many people that could have played this character. That's why I'm thinking this was such a missed shot, a misfire, missed opportunity.
Did you see the movie?
Not yet. It's on my queue. I'm waiting to see it. I'm so far behind.
But see, you're a big comic book fan, right?
Yes.
But see,
yes.
That tells me it's not a priority for you.
No, it wasn't. But a lot of things, I'm not, the typical viewer. I have so many other things going on that I don't have time to stop and go to the theater or whatever, even though that's one of my favorite things. I just choose to allocate my time into stuff that's going to make me money and make my brand better and make more opportunities for me and my future family, as opposed to spending my money to see a movie at the movie theater one time. And that's not to say that I don't like it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I wrote a whole piece on Black Adam for a different company on Twitter. And like, it was really, really cool to see that. I was like super excited about this, but then hearing a lot of the stuff surrounding it, I'm a little I guess, disappointed because there was such a missed opportunity. Like when you think of DC Comics, you always think of the same people. You think of a Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, you know, even the Hawks, you know what I mean? Like you think of like the basic Justice League, right? The basic villains like Joker and the Riddler, Penguin, and all these other, you don't think of Black Adam. This could have been a very awesome opportunity for DC and Warner Brothers to create a whole sub-story arc that fits into the DC universe as it currently stands. Instead, we have such a fragmented thing where one minute the Batman is a huge success, the next minute there's a regime change, and now they're no longer greenlighting the Batman 2. Then you have what's his name? You have Ben Affleck returning as Batman to appear in Aquaman 2 or whatever. Then you've got two different Supermans, and it's like casual fans will not understand the different story arcs and why they are not connected in the official DCEU,
Right.
which is the DC extended universe.
Right.
Casual viewers will not understand that. Loyal diehards will, like I'm explaining it.
Right.
But the casual fan is going to be confused.
Yeah. But look, Larry is talking my language. The Toxic Avenger was better. You ever see The Toxic Avenger, Taylor?
Yes.
What a tremendous movie. I have that on DVD, I must admit. Yes. Okay. That's it. That's a lot. We covered a lot. And I swear, man, right before I came on the air, the story was an hour old, and I didn't get to read it, but I just saw the headline that they are trying to cancel Beyonce now. I couldn't even get into it. It just came out an hour ago. Maybe that's something we could talk about next week. If you guys have any topics, man, you'd love us to cover, please, man, you can email me at officialvincerusso@gmail.com. Where can they email you, Taylor?
You guys can find me on my YouTube channel. What you do is you go to youtube.com/Taeler Hendrix. And if you have questions for me, what you do is subscribe to my channel, go down into my Q&A Wednesday videos where I answer questions from you, the fans, and that appears on my podcast as well as my YouTube channel. And who knows, we might even discuss them in depth here. So go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Taeler Hendrix. Check out my Q&A Wednesday video, hit the thumbs up on that, and put your comment below in that video for your chance to be featured.
And what else? Tell them about the books on Amazon. Tell them everything else you got going on.
All right, guys, here's the deal. I do weekly content on my YouTube channel, everything from lessons from a nursing home when I was a teenager who worked in a nursing home. I do educational videos because I am a former preschool teacher. I do Q&A Wednesdays with you guys, Motivation Mondays, and so much more on my YouTube channel every single week. You got my podcast with Vince Russo on Fridays every week at 1 p.m. EST. But in case you didn't know, I also have my own podcast on Vince Russo's brand, on russosbrand.com, Talks with Taeler Hendrix. I go over all kinds of topics, including pop culture, motivation, fun facts, and all kinds of stuff I think you should know by the time you're 30. So much more. So catch that every Tuesday, Talks with Taeler Hendrix, russosbrand.com with Channel Attitude. And then, of course, I have, as Vince Russo mentioned, I have 4 children's books currently on amazon.com/ebooks, because apparently you can't buy ebooks on regular Amazon anymore. So amazon.com/ebooks, you can find all 4 of my books. It's Not Easy Being a Sloth by Taeler Hendrix, which made it to the top 100 in children's action and adventure. So I am officially an Amazon top 100 author. You also have A Fish with a Wish is Trish by Taeler Hendrix, The Nosy Rosie and the Secret Surprise. And of course, my latest and probably my favorite, The Hopeful Spider by Taeler Hendrix, all available amazon.com/ebooks.
I love those titles. Pop me. Those titles. I guess you are too. I'm a big sloth fan. I pop at sloth. I think sloths are absolutely tremendous.
I absolutely love sloths so much. They are my favorite jungle animal. And to be honest, it was like, that was one of the newer stories I wrote, which is hilarious, but it was the first one to come out. Like, I wrote A Fish with a Wish is Trish back in the 6th grade as a haiku assignment, you know, and I don't know, Nosy Rosie, The Secret Surprise, I started writing when I was in TNA. And so, I don't know, it's so amazing to just see what happens when you change your environment environment and you start to believe in yourself when nobody else will, like
Yeah.
amazing things happen, you know?
That's awesome. All right, guys, listen, man, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for the donations, the cheers. We really, really appreciate that. We will be back with some brand new topics next week right here. Same time, same channel, live with Vince and Taylor. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great, tremendous weekend.